Now. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Careers Service Employer Connect series. This event is being hosted by the Civil Service Fast Stream. Before our speakers, George and Taj from the Civil Service Fast Stream, introduce themselves and begin the session, I just wanted to go over some housekeeping for this event. So we'd like to make you aware that this event is being recorded and will be available on the Career Service YouTube channel to watch again at a later date. We do understand that some of you may wish to turn off your camera function, although we do encourage as many of you as possible to keep your camera on throughout the session. You will notice that everybody apart from our speakers are currently muted. During the session, I'm sure there will be opportunity for you to ask any questions that you may have. And you can do this by either typing your question on the chat function box, or alternatively by clicking on the raised hand function, and George and Taj will let you know when they are ready for you to ask your question. Don't forget to unmute yourself when you speak if you do want to ask a question, and once you have spoken, we ask that you click on the lower hand button so that our speakers can identify any further questions from other attendees and press your mute button. Again, I want to thank you so much for joining the session, and I hope that you enjoy this event and others throughout the Employer Connect series. I'm now going to hand over to George and Taj from the Civil Service Fast Stream to begin the session.
Brilliant, thank you, Maya. As Maya has explained, I'm Taj, or full name is Tashmina, but you can call me Taj. I'm from the Cabinet Office, and I manage the Commercial Fast Stream scheme. I'll now hand over to George. He can give a quick intro before I start the presentation.
Yeah, awesome. No, thank you. Yeah, so I'm George. I'm currently on the Commercial Fast Stream in my second year. Currently working in Cabinet Office as a policy advisor. And I went to Newcastle. I did ancient history and archaeology here about 2019, so a couple of years ago I finished.
Brilliant, thank you, George. So the reason we are here today, and thank you to those that have made it to the session, is to explain a little bit more about what the fast stream scheme is, and specifically what commercial fast stream is. So in the past, we've had applicants that have applied for the commercial fast stream, and they didn't quite know what they were putting themselves forward for, and later on the scheme they had some doubts whether or not if it was right for them. So I'm going to do some myth busting hopefully in this session, explain a little bit more about the scheme, and then I will hand over to George, who's currently on the scheme, to talk a little bit more about his experience and how he's found the learning and development so far over the past year and a bit. So without further delay, I'm going to share my screen. Please let me know if you're unable to see my screen. Can everyone see it?
Yeah, that's come up.
Brilliant, thank you. So Civil Service Fast Stream, the application has been around for many years. It's one of the Times Top 100 graduate employers. The scheme itself has many different, the Fast Streams has many different schemes. So it is a leadership development program, and as mentioned, it's graduates from all degrees and background are encouraged to apply. I'm sure you've all heard about the fast stream, because I'm sure you're at a stage in your studies and at university where you are considering looking for full-time employment once you graduate, and fast stream always proves to be a very popular application and candidate experience. So what will the fast stream scheme lead to? So it's a leadership scheme, and the idea is that we in the civil service, we are developing fast streamers. So in so many years time, maybe 5 to 10 years time, we are developing these future senior civil servants. So you will get exposure to senior civil workers within the civil service. You'll have the opportunity to network, professional training, loads of key experiences to help develop your leadership capabilities. So we have a range of 15 different leadership and specialist development schemes that are branded under Fast Stream. And fast streamers, applicants like yourselves will have up to 4 options to choose from. All of these schemes, all those roles and offers, they're spread across the UK. So it's a nationwide scheme. So it's not just London centric. We have loads of opportunities up in North, Manchester, Leeds, Sheffield. We also have loads of opportunities around sort of Darlington as well. We have a few opportunities down south as well, southeast. So there are loads of opportunities across the UK. So if you are sort of, for example, Newcastle based, I don't think that there are limited opportunities. There's plenty of opportunities for you to grab and consider. So it doesn't matter, the schemes, it depends on which scheme you're looking to apply to. It's designed for high quality structured learning, on the job coaching and mentoring, and a career path within a government profession. What we want you to do is be open-minded and have a determination to succeed, and we'll give you real responsibilities across a variety of rewarding and government department roles. So there's a variety of roles that you will be posted into as part of the scheme. And as mentioned, it is one of the Times top 100 employers, graduate employers. We have actually maintained the position for almost 3 years. So we take pride in being a great place to work. I think most fast streamers have found the experience very, very enjoyable, and the success rate is really, really positive and really, really high as well. All right, so I'm the commercial fast stream scheme lead. So although I am involved with the general fast stream recruitment, my speciality is within that sort of commercial fast stream space. So what is commercial? What is that particular scheme? So commercial fast stream is one of the 15 schemes offered under the fast stream recruitment band. It is one of the civil services graduate recruitment schemes. It is 3 years long. So there's loads of, if you go to the fast stream website, which I've posted here, faststream.gov.uk/commercial, there's a lot more information there what it's all about. It is a scheme structure is 3 years. Over those 3 years, you'll have you posted in 3 different government departments with an option to do a secondment in your final year. Starting salary is 28k, and if you are successful on the scheme, then your salary will rise up to 55k. As mentioned, there are loads of locations across the UK that you could be posted into. We, as a civil service, we are moving away from London-centric roles. We are exploring opportunities, like I mentioned, up north, Newcastle, Darlington. These are some of the key areas that we're trying to recruit our fast streamers from. If you are successful, so if you are a commercial fast streamer, the idea is that you will be helping the government commercial function to achieve value for taxpayers' money and provide quality public services. So it's all about buying goods and services for the public sector at valuable rates and negotiable contracts. It is an expensive industry. As a government, we spent about over £49 billion on procuring goods and services. We ensure that government is in tune with national and international markets, and we manage relationships with some of the world's biggest companies. So there's lots of opportunities for fast streamers to get involved with, a lot of high profile work, and later on we'll sort of talk about some of the more prolific ones we've done throughout the course of the pandemic. It's throughout the 3 years, you will also have the opportunity to have some formal and recognized training. So one of the main formal training that we offer on the scheme is called CIPS, which stands for Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply. And it's if you complete all of that within the 3 years, you'll be entitled to the MSIPS qualifications, so you'll be Master of SIPS. And it's a globally worldwide recognized qualification. So it's all funded by the scheme, and you become an accredited member of a commercial profession. And at the end of your title, your name, you could actually have MSIPS stated. So it is recognized, and it sort of puts you in that commercial expert amongst those people. As a scheme, we're not looking for any specialism for you to come from to apply, all you need is an eligibility to work in the UK, a 2 or a higher degree. It could be in any degree discipline, although there will be a numeracy test for commercial fast streamers. It's pretty straightforward, and if you know your basics maths, you should be okay to do this. So any kind of degree discipline, I've had applicants from history, from geography, and some of them have applied for commercial, not quite knowing what it was, not doing the research, and they've sort of landed into this scheme, and they've gotten to become really, really successful commercial experts. And yeah, they're doing very, very well in their career. The website has a lot more information. So if you go to the faststream.gov.uk website, there is also a link there that will take you to the government commercial function website that explains a little bit more about what the function, the commercial function does. It's not just buying and procuring goods. There's a lot of other work that goes behind it. That you're setting the strategy, the policy to go and procure the goods. And this became more and more important throughout the pandemic, where we were dealing with very, very expensive contracts, and how you manage that and how we negotiate our way out of the pandemic. It was really, really interesting. A lot of our fast streamers were involved with many of these projects and have gone on to do really well in their careers. So any questions around what the fast stream scheme is and the eligibility criteria? No? Let's move on. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what commercial and procurement means within the government. So the government commercial function, so this is one of the main civil service functions, is a cross-government network, and it procures or supports the procurement of goods and services for the government. It's made up of commercial professionals supported by colleagues from a variety of disciplines. Each commercial team has a commercial director, and their directorates work on an agenda set by the department. When I say department, it could be a Department of Work and Pensions, it could be Department of Industry and Trade, it could be business, energy and industry. So each department has a commercial director, and they are given a set of agenda, a set of like a work task list to do, and they would deliver that alongside their commercial professions within the team. So as mentioned, it's a big industry, big function within the civil service. We spend around about £49 billion every year on contracts for vital goods and services. Therefore, it is important that we source the right suppliers to meet those needs and continue to manage those contracts well. You can imagine if a contract is worth $2 billion, we need the right experts to make sure that we are adhering to the law and exit strategy. There's lots of that go in there. So for fast streamers, there's a variety of roles that they can get involved in. There are 4 main technical areas that you will develop whilst on the scheme. You'll have the strategy and policy development. You'll have the contract and supplier management. You'll have procurement. And of course, you will understand the needs in sourcing and what is the right product for that customer or client. And you'll be a key decision maker in all of this commercial work. So it's a great start to your career. I'm not just saying that because I manage the scheme. It has lots of deployable skills. So you will learn lots of negotiating, communicating with stakeholders as well as your internal team members. You work with commercial directors who are very senior. They're one of the senior civil servants. You get to meet the head of commercial work. So you'll meet the GCO head, who is Gareth Rees-Williams. There's lots of opportunities for fast streamers to get involved with. Generally when fast streamers move off the scheme and they go into a commercial role, a lot of them do stick around for a very long time. But there are times where someone wants a change of career, and they found that their commercial experience has really helped for them to move into another role. So there are loads of transferable skills that you can learn within the commercial work. So it's not all just about buying, it's also about setting the strategy, managing billion contracts, but worth billions of pounds. You won't be doing this by yourself. You'll be doing this with other members of your wider team. But it's an opportunity that a lot of other schemes maybe not always have or give to the fast streamers, but for commercial, definitely there's lots of stuff we do to make sure that you are developing at the right pace in the civil service. So I'm going to pause here and open up some time for questions. So any questions around what commercial procurement is within the civil service?
Hi,
No?
Taj.
Sorry.
It's okay, just unmuting. Thank
Yeah, sorry, did you have a question?
you
Go for it.
that description. I was just wondering, it sounds like what the general role of the commercial side of things is to manage contracts that meet or align with the government's aims. Does that give you lots of freedoms to choose which contracts get funding, or is it very much like just making sure that the chosen contracts are to budget?
It depends. I mean, yeah, it depends what team you're in. If you are working in a fairly new project, so you might be involved with the whole tendering process. You won't be a decision, but you would definitely be working alongside those teams that are making those decisions, and you will have a key role to play in that decision making. George, is that, am I correct in saying that from your experience?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, there's obviously rules that govern how things are done, so you can't like express bias or favoritism, and everything's done properly like that. But you'd be involved like when you're awarding contracts in the evaluation stage, and even though it's also done blind, like I say, so you can't be impacted by bias. You are involved in that stage, especially if you are in like sort of a buying role, which a lot of like other people in fast stream are. So yeah, so you definitely get involved at that stage, and you can help specify the contract as well. So you can help write out what it actually needs to deliver. You can get involved at that stage as well.
Thanks, George. And the whole idea of the scheme is that you are exposed to those techniques and how certain contracts are awarded, how we procure those goods and services, what is the evaluation criteria. I have had fast streamers that have led on certain projects. I mean, they may not be so high profile given sort of at the stage you are in your career, but I've had fast streamers that have showed great potential and have led on certain parts of work stream, and have gone on to, alongside their direct supervision, have gone on to award contacts based on evaluation criteria. So the scheme is designed to expose you to all of that and also give you that first-hand experience. Because remember, what we want is, out of those 3 years, we want you to eventually join the government commercial function as a commercial lead, which is one of our senior commercial roles that is within the government commercial organization. So it's all roles that we offer to fast streamers on the scheme is all designed to make sure that you are meeting those high level attributes and skills. Does that kind of explain answer your question?
Yes, it has. Thank you. I suppose my question was more broader, like even looking to after the fast stream. So thank you. That gives me a good idea of, yeah, thank you.
Sure, no worries. Thank you. Right, so moving on to the next slide. So as mentioned before, commercial has always been key to making sure the civil service runs effectively. Right now, over the pandemic, commercial has come under a lot, the limelight, sometimes for the bad reasons, but mostly for the good reasons. And unfortunately, it's the good reasons that don't always make it to the press. But I've listed some of our top 3 commercial successes that it really highlighted why commercial is so important, and it's probably one of the reasons why we are continuing and we are very eager to grow our commercial capability. So the first one, and I joined the Cabinet Office last summer. When I came in, ventilator. I joined during the pandemic, and the ventilator challenge was one of the big commercial activity that was happening. Cabinet Office was leading on it, If you can recall sort of the panic and the worry that we were under, and what the pandemic throughout certainly the first peak, we had to, Cabinet Office had to really get on the wagon and really lead this work. So they designed, scaled and built over 15,000 ventilators in 4.5 months throughout the peak of the pandemic. And it wasn't just senior commercial people that were working on this particular project. We had individuals, we had fast streamers also working on this project. So we had, I think it was over almost around 20 fast streamers, who were a mix of year 2 and year 3 fast streamers back in 2020. What happened was there was a request that came in and said we need fast stream support because it's a key commercial project. Fast streamers were put into it, and they've had the most brilliant experience there. I think a lot of them had really saw how commercial is done within a tight deadline, and also what it would mean, because they kind of knew what the outcome had to be, and they really did put they bend over backwards to make sure the project was a success. So that was one of a major success throughout the last year. It was ventilator challenge. We have what the Cabinet Office has won many internal awards, and also a lot of key civil service awards. So this bit of work was really recognised. The fast streamers that supported this ventilator challenge were also personally congratulated by the head of commercial, so the government chief commercial officer, Gareth Rees-Williams. He wrote personally to them, and he also said thank you to them via a virtual platform. So it was, that work didn't go unnoticed. It was appreciated at all levels across the civil service. The next big project we did was from the Department for Education. They had a major task of procuring laptops and connectivity devices for children homeschooling to help prevent further disruption to their education. So again, if you may recall, there was a point where a lot of children were at home, and a lot of them that came from a sort of vulnerable or underprivileged background didn't have access to laptops or tablets, and their education was really taking a hit. And the DfE had to jump in there and said, okay, we need to do something about this, because we cannot continue at this rate and let our vulnerable children and underprivileged kids lose out on an opportunity. So again, they procured over 1.3 million laptops and 100,000 connectivity devices. So this was a huge challenge, particularly throughout the pandemic, where a lot of supplies were going bust, and things had to be scaled up to a huge level. But again, they met the targets, over met the targets, and it was a huge success. And lastly, and this is very recent, the Vaccines Task Force program that was led at BEIS, which is for Business, Energy, Industry, and it was supported. The program was supported by the PM's pledge. So the whole reason this program was set up, because the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, he had pledged to enable vaccine donations to 15 countries. So these 15 countries were mostly third world countries that couldn't unfortunately have the funding for vaccines. So he pledged vaccine donations to 15 countries before doses expired. So as UK, we had loads of vaccines, and there was a danger that it will go unused. So there was a point where, okay, we need to make sure that there is someone in a country that hasn't got the funding available, that we could help them, and it's our ethical duty to do that. And so this team again was set up pretty much at short notice, and there was a bit of panic on how are we going to do this, but it was success. Again, fast streamers, so 2 of my fast streamers were allocated to this project, and the success is that we, as the BEIS team, they more than doubled the PM's vaccines donation target to third world countries. And this work was very complex. It had multi-party negotiation and multiple contracts and documents to be put in place. And because of that tight deadline, and every vaccine has an expiry date, we had to make sure that those doses were delivered to those countries and used by that deadline. So an operational challenging task, but it was again a huge success. So these are some of our 3 key activities, commercial work and projects we did over the year. Again, it had a lot of fast stream input. I don't have to even ask, I don't even have to offer my fast streamers. It's departments value what fast stream do, and they usually come to me and say, oh, can we have some fast stream support? And it's an opportunity that fast streamers don't hesitate to take up. You may wonder that all of these projects happen throughout the pandemic. Would this sort of similar things happen or be available outside of the sort of pandemic scope? Of course, there's always some project or some key project that comes up and that requires fast stream support, usually at short notice. I don't usually like taking my fast streamers out of the scheme and putting them temporarily into another team, because I think they are missing a chunk of the learning and development. But it is, there are loads of something, there are loads of high profile projects, commercial projects across the civil service, and often they realize too late, okay, we need to deliver this by this time, and fast stream have been key and integral to the success of these projects. So any questions around some of the key successes over the years? No, moving on to the next slide. So what is the point of this session today? So, we are looking at a variety of a diverse range of candidates from all backgrounds and degree disciplines to join the scheme. Commercial is fairly young. It's only been around since 2015. So we've had about 3 or 4 full rotations since then. And, we are developing, we are growing as a scheme, and we encourage a lot more of you to apply or spread the word about what commercial is. I think we are good to share these slides, so I will share the slides with you via Maya's help. So the application is open. It opened on 21st of September. It's open for 4 weeks, and it will close on the 23rd of October. Sorry, it's not September. It will close on 23rd of October. So there's about 4 weeks a window open, so I will encourage you to apply as soon as possible to avoid disappointment. The early stages are mostly online, so a lot of online testing, eligibility checks, so that can take a little bit of time when you have the online application. So please visit the website, and again, there's a link in there for you to go into and explore a lot more. As mentioned, you can choose up to 4 preferences. You don't have to. If you want to just stick with one, that's fine, but you can choose up to 4 preferences. What I would tell you is to choose the schemes wisely, because every scheme will have a benchmark. So for example, if you chose project delivery and then generalist and then commercial in that order, if you don't make it to the project delivery benchmark, you will fall down to the next one, which is generalist. If you don't meet that benchmark, then you will fall down to commercial. And if you pass that, then yeah, you join the scheme. Of course, if it's the other way around as well. So if you're having doubts about whether or not if a scheme is right for you, and you sort of put it on the top choice, and by wonders you meet the benchmark and you get picked, and then sort of later on you decide, oh, I'm not so sure about this scheme, I should have chosen this one. There is, it's very unlikely that we can move you to another scheme at a later stage. So I would definitely say look through the schemes very, very carefully. If I think there are a lot of information on the website, so please do take your time and decide what you want out of the fast stream. It is a leadership scheme across the civil service, but it is also, there is 2 sides of it. You have the specialist, which is a more technical side, and you have the sort of the more generalist non-tech side. So please do ask yourself the questions: which route do you want to go down, and where do you see your career developing in the next 5-6 years? And then I'll just pass over to George, who has, of course, he's a year 2 fast streamer, so he just moved into year 2 this September. But George, I think someone who has gone through the process, I know it's been a while back, I thought you want to share some tips.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a while ago, so I'll see what I can remember. But I think, yeah, largely what's on the slide would be my top tips, I think, especially around like the due dates. Like I remember you used to get the email and do like other video interviews now live, and you'd have something like 72 hours to do it, and there'd be no sort of like wiggle room on that date. You like if you didn't get it done in time, that was it, and it was really quick. It would just come around. But equally, you get your scores back really quickly, which was quite nice. You weren't left wondering for a while, which I think you are with some other schemes outside of civil service. And I definitely look into the civil service behaviours. So these are what everything will be assessed against at all stages. So that's what it's been recruited against, obviously. Look at the levels. So the levels that we recruit against are sort of HEO, SEO, that's sort of where you go in. So look at what you're expected to demonstrate at that level and see how you can meet it. That's something I wish I'd done, especially going into the assessment centre at the end. I was definitely other people in there were a lot more familiar with them than I was. I think it showed. So I got lucky, I think, to get through that. So definitely look into that one. But largely as well, I think it's really keen to like enjoy it, or if you don't enjoy it, like the testing, the sort of the scenarios, work-based situation tests, stuff like that. You're just put in like a fictional world where you've got to solve a problem and you test against how you react to it. And it is really representative of what you'll be doing in the job. It's a work-based scenario. It includes in the title. So if you find the test interesting, which hopefully you will do, I know I definitely did. It gives you something to think about. Then you'll probably really enjoy the job. If you find the test to be a bit of a slog and you're just not interested in that sort of work, which not everyone is, then that might also be a bit of an insight into maybe it's not for you. But I think most people would really enjoy it. They are quite intellectual challenges. They really do give you something to think about, but they're quite unique as well. I certainly didn't. I applied for a few different schemes, both in and out of civil service. I never came across something like it. It was definitely really interesting. And yeah, I wouldn't bother looking when they come around. I wouldn't bother looking up online like, oh, what's the solution to this or whatever. You won't find any good advice. Just go with your gut feeling and think about how it links into the civil service behaviours. But yeah, that'd be my tips really. I don't know if that was any help.
Brilliant, thank you, George. Yeah, so the idea it's designed, the whole application process is designed to be as accurate as possible to what you might be doing when you join the civil service. The website has been revamped this year, so we've got a lot more information on there, including loads of links to civil service behaviours, how to use them effectively. So yeah, I've put the website on the link there on the presentation slide. So please do go and explore. But also bear in mind that before you know it, the deadline will be here, and at this stage we're not looking to extend it. So please do put your application in as soon as possible. So a little bit more about sort of the application process and what are the recruitment stages. It's like any other graduate recruitment process. So I know a lot of you at this stage, you're probably panicking slightly, worrying what do you want to do, and I have to do all of these online tests and so. It's all part and parcel of the whole process, and it'd be worth it because I'm sure you're all very, very able. So yeah, it's quite a long process, and believe me, while to go through it, it goes really, really quickly. So the first stage is the online tests. It consists, so you have to register, of course, and so once you register, you will get sent a link, and you'll be invited to online tests. It consists of work style questionnaires and multimedia situational judgment questionnaires. Again, a lot of these are based on real life examples in civil service, so please do answer as honestly as possible. The next stage is, if you pass that sort of first stage, then you'll be moved on to the next stage, which is the work-based scenarios. And it will consist of online case study and learning assessments. But please also bear in mind that each of these stages have a length of deadline. So I think it's about 3 to 7 days. It varies from stage to stage. And the third one is a video interview. So this consists of a timed video-based interview where your answers where your answers will be to a series of preset questions, and they are recorded and subsequently evaluated by an assessor. This is what we call a static interview. So you won't be live with an assessor. You'll have pre-recorded questions. You're given a few minutes to answer, and then we'll take that recording to an assessor, and then they will mark how you did. So depending on the schemes you have chosen, so there may be additional information to be completed. For example, a numerical test to do. So we, as a commercial fast stream, we do have that requirement. So you will be required, commercial fast stream applicants will be required to sit a numerical test. As far as I'm aware, they're not timed, but you do have a window, I think a 7-day window to complete the numerical tests. Then you have the assessment center, which we call FSAC. So if you pass all of those online stages and web-based and video interviews, you'll be invited to do a fast stream assessment center. Again, all of those stages are virtual, including the FSAC. And this will be a half-day assessment center and will be conducted virtually online. It reflects you'll have different exercises throughout this assessment center. So you'll have a leadership exercise, role plays, team scenarios, and a written exercise as well. All of these exercises is designed to see if you are suitable for the fast stream scheme, regardless of which scheme you chose. And again, they will be marked and assessed, and each stage will have a benchmark. And if you meet the benchmark set by each scheme, then you will be moved on to the final stage, which is called the final selection board. So every scheme will have their version of the final interviews. Commercial will have their own version of it. The idea of the final selection board is to assess your motivation and your understanding of the scheme that you have so far been successful to join. Or you might be successful to join. So we will ask, what is your understanding of commercial? Why do you want to apply for commercial? What is your long-term career goals within the commercial? So we are, essentially looking for your suitability to a commercial career. We're not looking for you to have the right commercial knowledge, but we are looking to see that you have done your research properly into what commercial is, and that you won't hopefully have any regrets when you do join the scheme if you are successful. So all of this, it starts. We are looking to do assessment centers from November, so it does pick up pace quite quickly after the sort of online various stages, and then the final interviews, we hope to start them from in the new years. So it does happen really, really quickly, which is why I do tell you that it looks like it's very long. Each process is very long, but yeah, when you're in the thick of it, it does go really, really quick. And the reason why it goes really quickly is because we have a deadline to meet. Every scheme has a deadline to meet, and of course, all fast streamers have to join either in September next year or October. So we are under a lot of pressure to make sure that your security clearances and all the other sort of admin that goes behind applicant recruitment is done in good time and with good notice. Any questions around the recruitment process so far? Are there any, fears or worries, anything that is stopping you from applying to the fast stream?
I was just wondering, when you apply, and you can obviously apply for more than one, I was just wondering if applying for more than one had a negative impact on your application, or if it was just sort of looked at the same, and if it's still the same process for applying if you do apply for more than one. Yeah,
definitely. So it as a scheme, we won't know how many schemes you applied to. It does not impact at all in your application. If you applied for one, or if you applied for another scheme and you didn't apply for commercial, but you put commercial down as a third or fourth, yeah, I don't care. Neither do other schemes. The reason we just want to give you fast streamers an opportunity to explore as many options as possible. So it's it does. We won't know as a scheme how many you've applied to. All we look at is you've applied to our scheme, you've met the benchmark, we want to progress your application further. As a candidate, as an applicant, the only thing we would flag to you is to make sure that you are applying to a scheme based on your research and knowledge that's available. So you are choosing wisely, and you're not just sort of putting, I like the sound of it, I'll put it down and I'll just see how it goes. The only impact it will have is which one is successful to join. So, for example, like I used before, if you're having doubts about commercial, but you think, oh, I'll just put it as top, and then hopefully don't pass then and I can cascade down to second. Please don't take that kind of gamble. Make sure you are ranking your preferences according to your general interest, that you are genuinely interested in. So yeah, it won't have any negative impact. We as a scheme, as a profession, we don't know. I might ask later on what your preferences are on you, just for just to see how popular commercial is, just for data collection, but it won't, you won't be seen any less attractive as an applicant if you chose commercial as a third or fourth. Does that put you at some ease?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions around the application process? Brilliant. So the next slide I wanted to quickly touch on before I hand over to George to talk a little bit more about his experience. So it's, the scheme is designed to encourage, enable and empower you as an applicant to become a civil service leader. There's a huge, think of it as civil service being quite a triangle. There's very few people at the top, and we're trying to make those at the top a little bit more diverse and a lot more from the fast stream scheme in the future. So whatever you want to achieve, whether you're doing geography, history, or whatever degree discipline, your background, we're really big on diversity. We want a variety of applicants. I think everyone has something special to offer on the fast stream. So please do look at our website and apply to the scheme that is most suitable for you. You will be, like I mentioned, the fast stream are generally actually really held in high regards across the civil service. It's a brand. It's a huge, well-known brand. And if you are in a department and sell, this is a fast streamer, you automatically almost given a bit of that sort of special value. I mean, not that non-fast streamers aren't of that sort of special value, but they know that fast stream scheme has been well invested in, and we are looking for a particular set of outcomes from this scheme. So you are highly valued across the civil service, and the reward that comes with for whatever for whichever scheme and throughout being in the civil service is high. There's not just that personal recognition that you completed the scheme and you are now grade 7, which is the sort of our first step into that leadership role, but it's all the other stuff that comes within working within civil service. It's not a profit-making organization. We are here to deliver a service for our public, for the people. It's you take pride in your work. You're there to help the work that you're doing is ultimately going to help the country prosper and become better. There's loads of other benefits included as well. You have a really good pension scheme. You can also apply for season ticket loans. We have flexible working arrangements, and childcare assistance, especially throughout this whole pandemic, where a lot of parents, with childcare has been quite a struggle. I've been in the civil service for quite a long time, and I have a sister who works in the private sector, and the attitudes are quite different. You almost kind of fall into a bad habit because it is so flexible, and it's a very understanding organization. So yes, of course, we won't ever match the sort of the profit and the money making private sectors, the salary that they offer, but it is very competitive, and the reward that comes out of it is quite. You should feel proud from what you put into the scheme. So that brings me nicely to the end of my session. I'm just going to hand over to. I'm going to hand over to George. Do you want to talk a little bit more about your experience, George, and how you find year 1 and how you're finding year 2 and what you're looking forward to going into year 3 next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, try and sell commercial to you a little bit from doing it. But yeah, it's been really good. So in my first year last year, I came into it like after a year out of uni. So like, you know, quite young, like 22-ish. I was what's called a category manager in the Department for Education. So you're sort of one step back from actually buying. So you're not buying stuff, you're working more on like the strategic side. You're responsible for like the end-to-end process through like what we need through to like putting in place the policy and the strategies for someone else to buy it. So you that sort of step back with a bit more of sort of like an overall role as opposed to like it's not frontline, but like the front buying. I did that for ICT, which I'm sure you can imagine was touched on the laptops last year in the Department for Education. So I had a bit of a hand in that, which was really, really interesting, really cool. You get to sort of work with suppliers, get to work with the markets to understand their capacity, what's going on. Obviously, I'm sure you've seen the news, like issues around like silicon and chip production. So it was coming up with strategies to cope with that, which was really interesting. Lots of really like fast-paced, dynamic work, which was really cool. Working really closely as well with our commercial director, who is the most senior commercial person within the department. So that was really cool. That I was sort of briefing her on our strategies and our plans going forward, and sort of taking directions from her, which, you know, at sort of 22, 23, it's so cool to have that sort of responsibility, and that goes for the whole fast stream. That's the sort of roles you end up doing from like day one, and you are supported. Like the culture is fantastic. My line manager was fantastic. He'd done 30 years in the private sector before moving to the civil service, and he referenced how much he loved being in the civil service as opposed to being in private sector. Just everyone's so much more supportive and approachable, but they'll be the most competent people you'll ever meet. So it's such a great environment to learn in. Some other stuff I did on top of the ICT work was we had, obviously around Christmas time, there's the COVID mass testing program in secondary schools, which I'm sure you saw in the news. Our permanent secretary, who's like the head of the department, if you will, put out a bit of a call for arms for people to go and work on that program, stand that program up, as was like the ministerial direction at the time. And that was sort of like overnight. It was like, we need people to work on this starting now. Just anyone come forward, we'll take you and we'll give you a role. So I went to work on that for 2 months, which was really interesting to sort of like work on the COVID work itself a little bit. And it was a complete change in direction. So it was sort of liaising with the Department for Health and Social Care and a few other sort of local councils to help them deliver their mass testing programs in schools, and to understand what schools needed, and then how we could meet that demand and that capacity. So there's a bit of that market and supply stuff again, but it was a completely different approach, which was really interesting. Then over this summer, in my last sort of few months there, I was helping deliver a new service which like sort of took schools through like the end-to-end process of buying something. So like not all schools have procurement experts in them. So a lot of the bigger trusts do, but a lot of the smaller ones don't. So DFE is stepping in and giving them that guidance. So we were setting up that service, putting in place the tech to be able to do that. And again, that was really cool to work with some of these big private sector companies to actually help launch this service and put in place like the technology that we needed. That was really cool, again, to see it from like more of a project delivery side of stuff, but still with a commercial view, which I absolutely loved. And then obviously we've mentioned the SIPS qualification. That for me is a really big sell, and it's something when you're looking at the fast stream, I'd recommend looking at whether or not you gain a qualification, because not all schemes you do. And for me, it's really useful. Like if I ever wanted to move around within the civil service or leave, the civil service, which I think is unlikely, I've got a tangible skill there, and like a qualification to take with me. It's it's internationally recognised. It is the standard, and the fact that that's paid for by the fast stream, and you get your learning days. You do it on the job. It's like on the job learning with an assignment at the end of every 6 weeks. And you get your time off throughout the assignment and stuff. So that for me is a real big benefit. It's an additional thing that you don't get on all schemes. So I'd definitely recommend looking into that. And then this year, in terms of my second year posting, it's completely different. So I'm working in Cabinet Office, which is obviously like the central government department almost. Like we're the government department for government departments is how I think of it. and I'm a policy advisor, so it's a commercial policy advisor role, but it's completely different. It's looking at working with industry to bring together documents, bring together expertise to help then other government departments do their job better and help buy better. So I'm working on like a piece of digital policy at the minute, and we've been working with like Amazon Web Services and BT and Tech UK to write that and pull that together. And obviously working around ministers and sort of working with them to refine it before we then publish it in a couple of months. So that's been really interesting to see that, probably more of like a typical, or what people think is a more typical civil service role. It's not, like I say, like there's all sorts of roles, there's no typical civil service role, but I think a lot of people think policy. I wouldn't, I think a lot of people, when they're applying to the fast stream, they think they have to go for the generalist scheme if they want to work in policy. If that's something you think you might want to do, you can do that role on the other schemes as well. So don't let that be like your deciding factor. But policies, for me, is really interesting because it's much more like problem solving. It's like a minister comes to you with a problem like, oh, we need, this digital thing, like we need government departments to be buying digital services better. Go away and solve that problem. So then, like in the policy role, your job is to solve it and put in place a process which the government departments will then follow. And that for me is really cool and really interesting. And then sort of finally looking on into like next year, and again, this is a real big benefit for me of the commercial fast stream, is you get to do 2 6-month roles. So you get to do 1 6-month role in private sector organisation, whether it be a charity or it be like a private company, and then another 6-month role in like the final government department before you move into your permanent grade 7. So that for me is really cool. So you can actually maybe go and work in like BAE Systems, work for BT, Amazon, or go and work, like I say, for like a charity or an arm's length body and see how they do stuff. And that for me, I think is going to be really useful to like just develop and see how other places do the job. And then, the idea is obviously you can bring that skill and that knowledge back into the civil service and like improve the system overall. And that, not all schemes, well, I don't know if there's another scheme where you do get to go into private sector for 6 months. So I think that's a real big selling point.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that actually, because we have a special team in Cabinet Office called Markets and Supplies team. And they have exactly what it says on the tin. They have relationships and connections with lots of private sector supplies and markets. So we are in a very privileged position to offer these opportunities out to our fast streamers. Yeah, it's only 6 months, but 6 months of really hands-on experience. And like George said, a lot of other schemes don't unfortunately offer secondments. It's either it be funding issues, or they just weren't able to source good secondment opportunities. But we as a commercial team, we do have really good links with private sector hosts. So yeah, it's something that we take we feel quite proud of. So yeah, it's another factor to make sure you are aware of when you are applying to different schemes. So any other questions? George, did you want to say anything else, or you're okay now? No,
I think that's like, I'd look at the commercial schemes. I think overall as a package, it can't be beaten. I know, touched on earlier, that you don't get into the civil service to make money, like you do in private sector. You are pretty well paid. When you look at it, have a look on the government commercial function, look at like where you'll end up at the end of your 3 years. And I think, mid-20s, you'd be hard pressed to find a better salary at this point. I'd look into it.
Definitely. I mean, your salary does really, as well as your commercial capabilities, it really does go really quickly. That learning curve is quite steep, but it happens really quickly in 2.5 years almost, that you can become a commercial lead. So it is a tough scheme. There is a lot of hard work involved. But there's loads of opportunities to develop, and I have a lot of fast streamers that go on to do very, very well in your senior positions. So it's it was great talking to you all. If you do have any questions, feel free to come off mute and ask. And Maya, do you want me to share the slides with you so you can send it off to the participants today?
Yeah, that would be great if you just email them to me after the session. I can email it to those who have attended. So thank you very much to Taj and George. That was a fantastic session. Thank you so much for leading it today, and thank you for everybody who attended. We really hope that everybody enjoyed this event. I'm just going to send a small feedback poll for the students to complete, and then after that everybody is free to go. But yeah, thank you so much, and we hope to see you at some more Employer Connect sessions as well. I'll just share the link to the poll, and yeah, thank you again.
Thank you, Maya, and thank you
Thank
to
you.
those that have attended.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, thank you very much.